Welcome back, listeners, to History Radio, where tragic stories never truly die, but merely wait to be told again. We've tracked the predators beneath the waves and the souls who vanished from history. Today, we delve into a different kind of story, a blood-soaked tragedy that ended a magnificent dynasty and haunted the entirety of the 20th century. The final fate of the Imperial Romanov family. This event was more than a political execution. It was a cataclysm of collapse, a mystery veiled in the fog of war and rife with legends of survivors. To comprehend the sheer horror, we must first remember who they were. Tsar Nicholas II was the last Tsar of a brilliant dynasty that had ruled Russia for over 300 years. Even in 1913, during the celebrations of their 300th year of rule, everything still seemed glorious. But beneath that lavish exterior was rot. The imperial family lived in a bubble of luxury, utterly disconnected from the painful reality of starving, suffering Russia. At the heart of the family was a private, fatal flaw. Their only son and heir, Tsarevich Alexei, suffered from hemophilia. This genetic disease meant that any bump, any minor cut, could be a lingering death sentence. The parents' desperate fear opened the door to the abyss, and that door was named Grigory Rasputin. This debauched peasant mystic, who claimed the ability to soothe Alexei's pain, became the closest confidant of Empress Alexandra. Rasputin's sinister influence eroded the reputation of the imperial family beyond salvation, proving to the common people that the Tsarist regime was utterly corrupt. The collapse was swift and total. World War I was the spark that lit the fire. Catastrophic military defeats, coupled with Nicholas II's weak leadership, led directly to the February Revolution of 1917. In a matter of days, the Tsar was forced to abdicate. The 304-year-old Romanov dynasty ended with a weak signature on a railway carriage document. The imperial family became prisoners in their own land. They were moved from the relative comfort of Tsarskoye Selo Palace to the remote Siberian town of Tobolsk. But as Bolshevik power grew, their protection vanished. In the spring of 1918, the order came to transfer them to Yekaterinburg, an industrial city controlled by the brutal Ural Soviet. Their final residence was a requisitioned mansion, Ipatiev House, chillingly renamed the House of Special Purpose, a name perfectly suited to the fate awaiting them. Their life there was a continuous series of humiliations, windows painted white, walls boarded up, and constant fear. They were no longer royalty. They were captives awaiting execution. The end arrived in the chilling hours of July 16th and 17th, 1918. The execution was led by Yakov Yurovsky, a ruthless Bolshevik who received direct orders from Moscow, likely from Lenin, to liquidate the entire family. Around 1:30 a.m., Yurovsky woke the Romanovs and their 4 remaining loyal servants under the false pretense of moving them to safety due to an imminent attack. The family was led down to a small, cold, damp cellar room. Empress Alexandra asked for 2 chairs, one for Nicholas II and one for the ailing Tsarevich Alexei. Yurovsky and his squad of 11 men filed in, and Yurovsky read the death sentence aloud, cold and brief. The Ural Executive Committee has decided to execute you. Seconds later, hell erupted. The amateur execution squad botched the job badly. But the most horrifying fact was that the Grand Duchesses seemingly did not die immediately. Bullets hitting their chests and heads either ricocheted or merely wounded them. The shocking secret was revealed later. The girls had sewn massive quantities of diamonds, rubies, and other precious jewels into their corsets. This dense bulk of gems created a kind of crude bulletproof armor, deflecting the rounds and prolonging the slaughter. The massacre turned into a prolonged, barbaric episode. As the smoke cleared, the princesses were still alive, groaning on the floor. Yurovsky and his men were forced to use bayonets and fire additional close-range shots to the head to finally end their lives and that of Alexei. Following the massacre, the horrific task of disposing of the bodies began. The corpses were taken to a remote forest clearing, mutilated with sulfuric acid, burned and buried in 2 separate shallow graves. Yurovsky's goal was to wipe out every trace, turning the Romanovs' death into a perpetual mystery. And he succeeded temporarily. The concealment's imperfection birthed a decades-long myth. Did any member of the imperial family escape? The most famous pretender was Anna Anderson, who claimed to be Grand Duchess Anastasia for 60 years. Her story resonated deeply, becoming a potent symbol of historical sorrow and inspiring countless works of art, proof that people refused to accept such a brutal and abrupt end. However, the secret only began to unravel after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In 1979, the first mass grave at Porosenkov Log was located, but its discovery remained secret until 1991. That grave contained 9 skeletons, immediately confirming that 2 bodies were missing: Tsarevich Alexei and one of the Grand Duchesses, Maria or Anastasia, which fueled the survival myths. Modern science, however, delivered the cold, hard truth. Mitochondrial DNA analysis in the 1990s and 2000s, comparing the remains to living Romanov relatives, first confirmed the identities of the Tsar, Empress, and 3 sisters. The final piece of the puzzle came in 2007 when the second grave was found, containing the remains of a young boy, Alexei, and a young woman, Maria. Final DNA analysis confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt all 7 members of the Imperial Romanov family and their 4 loyal servants were murdered and buried at Yekaterinburg. There were no survivors. Even Anna Anderson's tissues proved she was merely a Polish factory worker named Franziska Shenskowska. The Romanov family was ultimately canonized by the Russian Orthodox Church, and the Church on the Blood was built on the site of Ipatiev House as a perpetual monument. The end of the Romanov dynasty was a fateful, barbaric act that closed one era and violently ushered in the next. Though science has spoken, the Romanov mystery, nourished by the initial omission and the haunting Anastasia legend, still smolders. It is the terrible curse of a dynasty that ended not in a grand battle, but in a chaotic volley of gunfire in a damp cellar, where even diamonds could not save the princesses. So, was the Romanov tragedy the sad fate of an obsolete regime, or the cold calculation of those who used blood to build a new state? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to History Radio to join us as we explore the next great enigma.